With his unique ability to understand and penetrate the psychology of the actor, Michael Chejov, in the following talk on love in our profession, brings a new understanding of that which the actor already possesses, literally, a creative treasure house within.
Deep, deep within ourselves, within the treasure house of our souls, are buried tremendous creative powers and abilities, but they remain unused as long as we do not know about them, or as long as we deny them. They are so powerful, so beautiful, wonderful, that we are, and this is the disease of our present age, we are ashamed of them. That's why they remain unused and would remain forever if we would not open the door, go fearlessly into this treasure house and search for them. And tonight, let me absolutely shamelessly talk to you about one of these treasures which frightens us most and of which we are ashamed most of all. This treasure is the basic thing for all our professional, practical, creative work. So, I'm going to speak to you about that, what we might call love. A great confusion reigns in our minds and hearts in connection to this particular specific treasure. And I think we will do good if we shall first try to define as much as we can what do we mean under that love which can be practically used in our profession. First, let us throw a glance at that which is definitely not love. It is lukewarm, sentimental something which we mistake for love. How often we see, even during our improvisations, that two people trying to express, to act love, they stare at each other's eyes for a while, and then they feel uncomfortable and start blinking. That made them even more uncomfortable. Then they feel they have to do something to justify their embarrassment. Perhaps they touch each other's hands unsuccessfully. Then they start to giggle or something like that, trying to find escape in this giggling, terribly embarrassing situation. And then finally they produce an almost, forgive me, idiotic smile on their faces, and then everything comes to an end. This is not love. This is sentimental something which is not even able to substitute the love. It is just one of the phantoms which we mistake for love, and which, I'm sure, contributes very much to our fear, to our shame, which we have when we hear or utter the word love. Here we are justified. It is not love. It is something very, very shameful. But what is true love? There are three kinds of love. All three are very different. Greek language has three different words for it, but we have only one, and that creates also great confusion. Let's try in few words just to define what are these three kinds of love. One is that which develops between two opposite sexes. We might call it erotic love. There are two poles, as it were, of this love. One is a high pole or aspect of it, and another is low and base. The high aspect we often call romanticism or platonic love between two sexes, but the base, the lowest end of it is, well, you know what it is. I don't need to speak about it. Another kind of love is of a different nature. This love we might call pure human love. There is no erotic element in it. It is a love between one human being and the other one, regardless of the sex. And this human love also has its higher and lower aspect. In the lower aspect, it is usually connected with blood relationship, and here egotism plays a great and important part. I love my son, my daughter, my father, my cousin, my brother, all who are mine. I love myself, so to speak, within my brother, my father, my mother, my sister. It is a good and noble love, but yet it is not the highest aspect of it. Much higher is, for instance, our love to our country. But even this is not the highest aspect. The real and true human love begins when we start loving every human being, regardless of the nation to which it belongs, regardless, of course, of any blood relationship, just because there is another human being and I am able to love it without any specific reasons, without adding any mine to it. And this is the highest aspect of this human love. There is no even need to know personally this or that human being whom I love. It might be somebody in China whom I never saw and never will see, but still I love him or her because he does exist. Of course, there is a danger. We might plunge into the boundaryless field of abstract saying, I do love humanity. No, I don't mean that. Nobody loves humanity because nobody experiences, feels, knows what humanity is. If we say, I love human beings, so we immediately get some definite, concrete ground under our feet. Because to love one human being, wherever it might be at the moment, whether I know him or her or not, this is quite a different thing than just to play with these general conceptions. Humanity. I love humanity means nothing, absolutely nothing. And finally, there is the third kind of love, the highest one, which we might and must term divine love. This is so high that we can't even have any true conception of it. We cannot experience it. This love is love with which God or the Holy Trinity loves, and we are not going to speak about it. We shall remain in the frames of what we termed purely human love, and see what practical use we can make of this treasure for our profession, for our creative work. The question arises, what is it actually that we love so much in our profession? Everything, of course. And first of all, speaking in general terms, all of us love acting. Under this term, I include, of course, the joy and the pleasure of transforming oneself into the character, of being able to express oneself through the mask of our character, and all other things which belong to it. Look, how many sacrifices an actor makes only to be able to act, through how many sufferings and even humiliations our modern actors go through patiently only to be able to act. What force on earth could stop him from this desire, from this love for acting? Perhaps he sacrificed better careers, better professions, even better way and more secure way of living. Everything means nothing for him. Acting and acting alone is that what possesses him and leads him through all the difficulties which are connected, and especially nowadays, with this strange profession which we call acting. The other thing which we love perhaps more than ourselves is our role, our part. How often do we hear or say ourselves, "Oh, what a wonderful part I got." Perhaps it's not so wonderful after all, but as soon as I get it, it seems to me under the spell and magic of this love that it is the best and the most wonderful part I ever got. The third thing which an actor loves passionately is the process of preparing his part, the work upon it, the perfecting of the part, because all of us are, after all, perfectionists. Whether we are given the opportunity to lead our creation to the perfection or not, it doesn't mean a thing. But our hidden desire is to make it perfect. And this process of working and creating upon our part is entirely permeated with love. The fourth thing is the ready product of all the actor's effort. As soon as the part is born, the actor begins to love it as if it were another living being, another man, or his or her baby. It becomes objectively existing for him. Even if it is not perfect, still, in spite of his fictitious existence, it is a living being, his or her baby, and he loves it dearly. It is justified, this kind of love, because not only for the actor, but very often for the spectator as well, the creation of an actor lives within him for days or weeks or months or perhaps even longer. So It is a living being which deserves and even absorbs the entire love of the actor as soon as he has completed his creative work. And now the fifth and the last is the audience. The actor might think whatever he wants and say whatever he wants about his audience. He might say, I'm indifferent to it, or even I hate it. It is only an illusion. The actor loves his audience. He needs his spectators. He couldn't live without them. He knows perfectly well that he works for the audience, and now while performing, he works with the audience. The audience is a part of his profession and one of the most important, and he longs for audience, and he loves it. Otherwise he would really only embarrassed by it or even to hate it. With these five elements, I cover the entire profession of an actor. There is nothing left. All the details and nuances are included in these 5 points, but it is the entire profession which is permeated with our love. From the beginning to the end, permeated, saturated, and filled with our love. Please take notice, I never said that the actor ought to love his profession. I always said he does love it. The question is only how much he is aware of his love constantly working within him. And here we come to a very interesting and even curious point in our psychology. And here it is. Every one of us knows by personal experience that there are two currents working within us, two currents of powers. One is good one, positive, creative, helping, and another one, a negative, hampering, destroying. Now, if we do not know about these positive, creative powers, they become weak and always weaker and weaker. Their influence upon us becomes almost unnoticeable and perhaps might disappear at all if we never will pay attention to them. Quite the opposite. If we do not know anything about destructive, bad, and hampering powers working within us, they grow, they develop. Their influence upon our creative works becomes stronger and stronger, and vice versa. If we do know about our positive powers within us, they begin to grow. They begin to help us in our creative work more and more. And when we know about negative, destructive powers within us, they diminish, they die out slowly. And ideally speaking, one day they might even disappear entirely. The thing is that knowledge of good and bad powers within us working simultaneously is creating tremendous development within us. And the ignorance drags us down and down, because this ignorance gives strength and feeds negative powers within us. This is the curious, most interesting, and most practical thing we can use in order to develop our talents. Now let's try and realize what practical achievements will an actor get for his profession if he is courageous enough to recognize and to develop this unshakable power within him which we call the love. Let's realize at least some of these achievements. The first one I want to call your attention upon is this. All our theatrical, creative feelings on the stage, that means the feelings of the character, are based upon this love. I might even say all of them are generating from this love. Imagine a field, a big field, unplowed, unprepared, neglected. This is when we deny our love and when we try to use this field for growing some crop. Very poor things will grow there. But if we recognize it, if we prepare the field, everything which grows upon it will be strong and healthy. The same with our feelings on the stage, I mean creative feelings, not the feelings which we use in our everyday life. Let us take immediately an extreme example. The character is filled with hatred on the stage. Hatred and love, what do they have to do with each other? In everyday life, nothing. But on the stage, very much. Because while hating as a character on the stage, at the same time, we enjoy this hatred because it is based on the general foundation of love. I might say we love to hate on the stage, and our spectator just the same loves to see us hating while we are in love with this hate. Now imagine another thing. There is no love with us, or rather we do not recognize it, and we are still ashamed of it, and we don't want to develop it. The hatred of the character becomes more and more natural. That means it becomes more and more ugly, repulsive. And imagine that the performance is over. There was no love as a background. We didn't love our hatred on the stage. The curtain is down, and what might happen? That we shall continue hating whom? Maybe nobody in particular, but this hatred remains with us and becomes more and more resembling the hatred in our everyday life. That means that we are getting slowly but surely toward the point where we begin to confuse our creative feelings and our everyday feelings. This is a way to become, to a certain degree, insane, because as soon as we confuse our everyday real feelings, which are not based on love, with the feelings on the stage which are based on love, we bring more and more often the street on the stage, killing the art. And on the other hand, we begin to act in life, creating lies upon lies. That is the way which some of our colleagues are already going. And this confusion kills within them everything which they thought, hoped, being young people, to find on the stage, which they loved and now forgot about it and confused two absolutely different spheres: everyday life without the love and stage life based on this love. If you, my good friends, will think of it properly and will repeatedly come back to this thought, very soon you will realize that this love is there within you. And as I said before, the realization alone, the knowledge about this love, will already increase it, develop it, and the practical result of it will be that you as an artist will grow and develop, and as a human being you will have also some benefits. But our concern is how to develop our talents. And this is one of the most practical and useful ways. Think of it, realize it, and you will see what shall happen. And another achievement will be this. What is the most characteristic feature in love as we understand it tonight? It is a constant process of expansion. If you will see and realize that the love is not a state of mind, it is not static, it is constantly moving. So you will see that this movement can be only characterized by saying it expands itself continuously, incessantly, and with this expansion, our inner being, the core, the essence of our artistic being is also constantly expanding itself. What does it mean? That means that our talent grows, loses its chains, and becomes stronger, more powerful, freer, and more expressive. Expanding oneself, that means developing oneself as an artist. We have enough powers within us and without us who compel us to contract, and with this kill our development, kill our talents. Then why not to make a practical use from love by recognizing it, developing it, and expanding ourselves? Those killing one by one all these forces which compel us to contract, to diminish our own creative being, and to become more and more artistically free, creative, and happy. This is truly practical side of what I am trying to suggest to you. Another achievement will become clear to us if we ask, what is the essence of our profession? The answer might be, the essence of our profession is to give, constantly to give. What do we give? First of all, we give our body, our voice, our emotions, feelings, will, imagination, everything. We give to our character. Then, what else? The whole and complete result of this giving, meaning rehearsing and acting when the character is ready, we give it to our spectator. Nothing, absolutely nothing remains for ourselves. We confuse two things very often. The pleasure of giving we confuse with giving itself. The pleasure remains with us, but everything what we create, our whole character, is given to the spectator. And the pleasure which remains with us is only the result of this giving. Now look, the most characteristic feature of love is expansion. The most characteristic feature of our profession is giving. Is it not actually the same? The love expands itself and ourselves, and that is the process of giving. We give ourselves through this process of expansion of love to our spectator, to our audience. Try to keep your feelings as a character within yourself without giving it to your spectator, without radiating, sending out your feelings. What shall happen? You will lose the contact with your audience. You will feel that you are suffocating within yourself, and you are doing nothing on the stage but torturing yourself, going against your nature, and against this love which requires from you that you are expending, giving, granting, and getting rid of everything you have inside of you as the character. We are people who are born to give and not to take and hold everything for ourselves. And another achievement. Imagine two kinds of actors. One is unaware of the necessity and possibility to constantly give and expand and love. Another is aware of it. He feels much happier while giving. He doesn't feel himself like an egotist which keeps everything for himself. Now, what is the difference? Inner difference between these two types of actors. The first one, who doesn't give, is filled with unrest. He does not know what it is inwardly to be poised, quiet. He is not acquainted with that what we might call inner tranquility. Giving means to go along the path which lead us to wonderful tranquility and poise. The other one, who is an egotist on the stage, is always torn to pieces by some unrest inside, restlessness of mind, of feelings, of will impulses. Now turn on your radio and you will very often hear wonderful lectures how to achieve peace of mind. And there are wonderful books tackling with this theme. But why shouldn't we use our profession in order to achieve this peace of mind? We can use it by simple means of giving, 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 and nothing keeping for ourselves. It will not only be the true answer to our artistic nature, it will be based on our love, as I said, and it will give us the tranquility without which no creative work is possible. Because a restless artist is not creating actually. He's tearing his nerves, I mean physical nerves, to pieces. He is always disturbed, worried. He is always uncertain. He has no confidence to himself. And instead of this confidence, he becomes more and more conceited, hoping that this conceit might substitute for the peace of mind, for tranquility and poise. Can you imagine, for instance, old masters like Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo as restless people? I don't think it would be right to imagine them that way. Of course, we know that Michelangelo exclaimed once, "Oh God, don't inspire me so much because I am torn to pieces by so many desires. I want to create something from this rock or this piece of marble and so on." But it is not restlessness. It is the fire of a genius. But Michelangelo, while creating, was quiet, peaceful. His mind was at rest. The same with Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and any other great master. Just again, think of it. Is it really possible to sacrifice all your being to creative work and at the same time to be restless as a creator? It is absolutely impossible to combine these two things. And the way in our profession to be really creative and free is this peace of mind. Again, if I may repeat, through giving, through radiating, through expanding, with the firm desire to keep nothing within ourselves and for ourselves. The more we give, the more we get. We know this. We never get tired from giving. Our tiredness of today, all kind of neurasthenia and hysteria and so on, comes only from not giving, from keeping. And we can be perfect neurasthenics and hysterical people within our profession if we do not develop this ability of giving, expanding, and loving. You might take all my suggestions as a kind of cheap preaching, but you might also sense within them deep practical meaning. It depends entirely upon you. If you will take it as practical suggestions, you will see that your nature will change gradually, and all what I say will become, by degrees, of course, more and more a second nature of yours. Then you will see how practical and practicable my suggestions are. There are always two ways of hearing and listening. One with our critical intellect, with our dry, calculating mind. And another way is to listen and to hear, as it were, emotionally, trying to fulfill it. I mean, that's what you hear within your heart. Try to exercise it, to rehearse it, try to experience it within your heart, and ask your mind to be silent, at least for a while. You will always have time afterwards to criticize, to analyze, to accept or to deny. That's up to you. But start with your heart and not with your brain. I am unable, of course, to enumerate all the benefits an actor can get from trying to follow my suggestions. And there is no need for it, because one who is able to take it as a practical suggestion will find by himself so many things which he will be able to use and to develop them more and more. I gave you only few examples, a mere hint. If someone of my listeners who senses the practical side of what we have discussed so far will ask me, are there any concrete means to develop this quality within us which you called love? Yes, there are such means. Different means, many means. But while trying to answer your question, I will prefer to remain as before in the frames of our everyday life, our human life, so that these means, the very simple ones, can be used every day, every moment of the day, without distracting our attention to it and without taking special time. And now here they are, these few suggestions for developing our love, or rather becoming more and more aware of its existence. May I remind you, friends, that we approached our problem tonight not from the point of view of feelings, but rather from the point of view of will, doing. We consider this love as business, as act, as a deed, and not as feelings. And so we shall continue. Feelings, which of course belong to love, they will appear by themselves at the right moment, and we shouldn't be concerned with them. Doing certain things inwardly and outwardly will be our means of awakening, invoking, and coaxing our love from the depth of our human soul. And my first practical suggestion will be this: try not to lose the opportunities during our daily life, and there are many of such opportunities, when we can render some help to other people around us. It is of no consequence at all whether your help will be of great significance and importance, or it will be just a little insignificant thing, for instance, even giving a match to somebody who wants to light his cigarette. It is not the question of how important it is. The significance lies in the mere fact that you do something for your fellow man. This doing, conscious doing, is a tremendous power for awakening that what we call our human love. I had once a good friend of mine who was filled with good qualities, really human good qualities. And I observed him for years and saw how he loses almost all the opportunities to help other people. And finally I asked him, why does he do it? Why doesn't he render help to others where he could do it? And his answer was, I don't feel that I love this person enough to do for him what I could do, because if I'll do without feeling that I love him, I'll be somehow dishonest. That was his mistake. He waited for years and years for this feeling, and it never came to him. Please understand me right. By no means do I invite you to render your help to your friends and other people purely mechanically. No. The more sincerely you do it, the better. But it is not waiting for feeling of love. This is something quite different. My other suggestion will be the following one. There are so many things around us which we feel are ugly, unsympathetic, unpleasant, and we don't want to have anything with them. All right, that's justified. Of course, there are many ugly things around us. But from now on, perhaps you will try to do the following thing. As soon as you meet something which is so unpleasant to you, try to find in it at least a grain of something which is not ugly and not repulsive. In everything which is not very pleasant, it is possible to find something which is pleasant. It might be so small, so insignificant, so I would say intangible, but it is worthwhile to find this little intangible something which is good, and then you can turn away from this ugly, unpleasant thing, but still you will bear within yourself something which will be a signal which you send somewhere into the very depth of your soul, and this straight wire, this signal, will be also a mighty means of awakening that what we call our human love. Another suggestion: listen sometimes to the conversations and discussions of people around you, and try to pay attention to the way they speak these little words, I, mine, to my mind, in my opinion, how much weight and significance I put in them, having hardly understood what my interlocutor is going to say to me. If I think, oh, that is just what I think too, I'm there with my nodding assent and happily uttering, me too, and I'm so happy I even start laughing. Why? Because it is just what I think too. I measure the thoughts and opinions of others through the prism of my own agreement or disagreement. I don't mean to say that we should not express our own opinions. Certainly we should express them. Otherwise, no conversation, no discussions would be possible. What I really suggest is gently carrying out, taming of this small ego. Why gently? Because if we use too drastic means, it might revolt and give us a strong repercussions blow. The best way to treat it is with humor. Laugh at it. Of course, our laughing shouldn't be neither evil nor sarcastic nor cynical. Just laugh at it because it is really humorous. And why should we tame this small petty ego at all? Because it works contrary to that all-pervading love which we need so much in our profession. While the love expands itself continuously, the small ego contracts. They cannot coexist. Either one or the other must become victorious. There is no other way for us. And of course we shall be on the side of our love, because it is the basis, as I said before, and the main strength of our creative work. In a little while you will notice how differently you yourself pronounce the words I, my mind, to my mind, and me, and so on. But don't force the result, it will come by itself. Just enjoy it when you will hear yourself speaking these words in a quite a different way. Perhaps one more suggestion. Try to develop a habit of thinking about everybody, about every fellow man of you, as a bearer of two different selves, the higher and the lower. I am perfectly aware that none of us is able to imagine this higher, better self fully, completely, but it's not necessary. Just try to think for a second or two, but as often as you can, that there are two different selves, and that will grow in time into something which will become more and more concrete. When we speak about our love to others, we mean, of course, that we love the other, better, higher self of the other. We can hardly love the lower self of him or her, just as we cannot love our own lower self. Therefore, this habit of thinking that there is higher self in everybody around us will be a way to awakening in time this feeling, this concrete sensation that the higher self is the point toward which our love is directed. But again, it will happen by itself. What we need is only to let this thought to pass through our mind as often as possible for 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then let it to our subconscious, to our talents, to our own higher self, to find what this higher self in others is. To those of my listeners who are still inclined to think that all these suggestions about human love are only a general thing and is not practical at all, I would like to tell this. While working upon our parts, we go through different stages. In every of these stages, this love will be present, inspiring us, giving us suggestions, making corrections, and deepening the understanding of the part and strengthening the expression of it on the stage. We go through different details of our work. In every detail, every moment, every instant, this love will be present too. It will be a kind of director within us who gives us concrete suggestions concerning every detail, every little business which we have to fulfill, every line we speak. It will be even more than occasional suggestions which our directors might give us. It will be a constant help in every detail, in every smallest detail. Believe me, my friends, I wouldn't dare to bother you with this love theme if it were only a general thing. But your own experience will tell you more than I can do with my awkward words. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and good night.